Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book review. So hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody had we all, as we all do, we always eat too much and everything. But hopefully you spent time with family and friends and were safe and hopefully vaccinated. And mine was good. My parents came into town, so it was really a nice weekend. I mean, they were here almost a week, but it was all good, and we survived and everything, and it was good. So hopefully your family and friends, it was good. This week's comic book reviews, it's a pretty decent stack. Not a huge week, but some good stuff in here. So we're gonna jump right in. First up, we have Wonder Woman Historia, the Amazons #1, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, with artwork by Phil Jimenez. Now, a lot of these Wonder Woman, there's some miniseries like the Nubia and the Amazons. A lot of this is leading up to the Trial of Amazons, which is going to be a big crossover event next spring in the Wonder Woman universe. But these are laying the groundwork, and the best way I can describe the Historia is it's very much like the other history of the DC universe, but a bit different. It's a similar thing where it's telling the history of Themyscira, but instead of being more dialogue versus art, where it's more like an illustrated novel, this one is pure comic, where Kelly Sue is really giving a great history of how Themyscira came about, and it's really fascinating. I mean, I really have to give her props because this is really a detailed telling of that. Now, there have been stories about Themyscira and how a lot of stuff came out, but I think this is a good, really collecting all that stuff and then adding on top of it to really give it a true origin. And I think that's what made the story very fascinating, is that it really, has to do with the gods and everything, or more prominently the female gods, and how they're kind of tired of the male god just treating them like crap. But what really makes this really special is the artwork of Phil Jimenez. And it's been quite a while since he's done a DC book, and it really, it's saying that this book is stunning visually is a true understatement, because what this is like I said, it's definitely like a history and things like that. But what Jimenez brings to this is he really makes what could be somewhat dry material of explaining, okay, there's this and this is how this happened. He really just visually makes it so impactful. It's insane. And he brings so much to the table. And that's where this is one of those rare instances where you have the perfect marriage of story and artwork, where he understands what he needs to do visually to make the exposition a bit less dry while you're reading it, because then he brings the visuals. But then Kelly Sue is definitely writing this with him in mind, like, oh, he can really draw this, and he really does. And it's not only a great story, but it's obviously stunningly beautiful, and is really, really well worth checking out. Now, like I said, this definitely is one of the lead ups to next year's event, but you can totally read this on its own. It stands on its own, and it's a gorgeous book, and it was really one of the best things I really read this week. And visually, it just is absolutely amazing, and you really need to buy it. It does stand on its own. I don't think you necessarily need to read anything more. There is another issue coming out in spring of next year. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same creative team or a different creative team, but this does definitely stand on its own, and really is highly recommended this week. Next up, we have Maniac of New York, The Bronx is Burning, #1, written by Elliot Kalan, with artwork by Andrea Mutai. So this is a sequel to last year's Maniac of New York. And let's be honest, it's it's a much better version of Jason Goes to Manhattan than the movie was, because he doesn't really go to Manhattan. He goes there for like the last 10 minutes and kills like 2 people, and it's really awful. And it's an awful movie on top of that. Had he went to New York, it might have been good. So fortunately, Clan has fixed that problem. He's decided to make a comic of it. Now, this is not Jason per se, but it kind of is. Now, if you have not read the original miniseries, first of all, you should check it out. There's a trade of that. It came out recently. But I think you can read this on its own, because all you have to know is that he's killed people on a subway in New York, and Kalan does a nice job of at least filling you in of like, this is that. The big real why these work so well is that, sure, the whole like hacking and slashing and bloodletting, it's all neat and everything, but what Kalan does here, and he does really well in this first issue, is he gives you characters to be in the story, the detectives, the kid that's in high school. And so what this one is, and so the maniac has gone from New York to the Bronx, and he's now in a high school. So it's Jason in a high school instead of Jason on a subway in New York. And so it is well done for what it is. It's exactly what you expect it's going to be. But I will, like I said, I'll give Kalan that he does a nice job of setting things up really well here. And there's some blood, not a whole big lot of bloodletting in this first issue, but there's some good stuff. But then you have Mutai's artwork, which is really, really nice. And I always say if an artist can draw dialogue where people are just standing around talking and make it interesting, then that's a sign of a good artist. And Mutai really does a nice job here. It's a really good looking book. It definitely will fill your horror needs if you're looking for a horror book. So I enjoyed it for what it was, and I think the first issue's off to a good start. Next up, we have Gotham City Villains #1. So this has multiple creators. The first story is written by Danny DeVito with artwork by Dan Mora. Then there's Wes Craig, written by Wes Craig with artwork by Jason Wordie. Then we have G. Willow Wilson writing with Emma Rios as the artist. Then we have Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Riccardo Federici as the artist. Then we have Nadia Seamus and Joshua Williamson writing with Max Rayner as the artist. Then we have Stephanie Phillips writing with Max Fumara doing the artwork. Then we have Dan Waters writing with Skylar Patridge as the artist. And then the last story is written by Marguerite Scott with artwork by Ariella Christine Tina. So there's a lot here. And as with most of these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories. So not quite 10, but 8. So you kind of base it on like how at least is there 50% of the stories that are worth buying. And in this case, I'd say, yeah, there wasn't any that were really disappointing. Most of them were good. There were some that really stood out. The biggest surprise was the first one written by Dan DeVito with the Penguin and Catwoman actually in love. It's a really strange story. And of course, while you're reading it, for me at least, I could hear Danny DeVito as the Penguin, and then Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman. But it's a really interesting story because it actually has well, I don't really want to give too much away, but they're actually working together, and they actually end up not doing necessarily bad things per se. So it's really an interesting story. One of the other, the Scarecrow one's quite interesting. And I really want to say that the artwork on the Danny DeVito by Dan Moore is really, really wonderful. It was really, really gorgeous artwork. Once again, the Scarecrow was an interesting story. It was good, solid story with nice artwork. Another one of the big wins was the Poison Ivy story by G. Willow Wilson and Emma Rios. That one's really, really good. And I think it really shows that she really gets to the heart of that villains are tragic characters. They're not necessarily per se evil. They just kind of somewhat view things differently, and it really Wilson's take on Poison Ivy is really quite brilliant. It's a beautiful story, and the artwork is absolutely stunning. It's really really good. Um, the Red Hood stories actually was quite a surprise by Stephanie Phillips with artwork by Max Fumara. That one was really interesting because it we know that the Joker was the Red Hood, but this is more of henchmen use the Red Hood to kind of create a new mob boss, basically, sort of thing. And it's really interesting. And Fumara's artwork is absolutely really, really stunning here. It really is interesting. And the Mad Hatter was quite an interesting story because I think he's kind of a bit of an underused character, and he's kind of a hard nut to crack. And that one's really interesting. Overall, it's really good. There were no clunkers in the bunch. And the Ra's al Ghul and the Talia al Ghul were interesting stories. And then there was the final one, the Killer Moth. The Killer Moth one's quite interesting because once again, it's like he's a moth who is going to fly around the bat signal. And it really, I have to give Scott that does a nice take on his character because he's not really one of those A-lister villains. Overall, I think it's good. I do think that the ones that stand out really stand out. Like I said, the Penguin and the Catwoman and the Poison Ivy were definitely, for me, my absolute favorites. They were really, and like I said, the Poison Ivy was really, really stunning. And so I think it's worth checking out. I think it's interesting because it's not just the good. First and foremost, there's not a Joker story, which is actually kind of nice because there's like 1,800 Joker stories we've had in like the last month. So I like the fact that they picked villains that you kind of don't see like every month in the Batman books. So that was quite nice. Like I said, it is a little on the pricey side with the cover price, but I think it's worth it. I would say it's a solid book. Next up, we have Evil Ernie #1, written by Scott Lobdell with artwork by Ariel Medel. So here's the thing. Once again, it's the 90s. 90s are back. So it's Evil Ernie. This character is what he is. What it is he whoever wears the evil Ernie pin is basically possessed by evil Ernie. And in this case, it's a kid who doesn't actually realize that what has happened. It's a 90s book released today. Lobdell does the script is what it is. It does a decent job. It tells a story. It's pretty interesting. Medell's artwork's actually pretty nice here. He does a really job, especially for a Dynamite book, because a lot of times the artwork is not the best in some of their books where they tend to be more writer heavy than art. But overall, look, it's okay. It is what it is. If you're a fan of Evil Ernie, you're probably gonna love it. I think if you've never read Evil Ernie, I think this is a decent way to check it out and see if you like the character. It's fine. It is what it is, and I don't think it was great. I don't think it was terrible. It was okay. Next up, we have Joker 2021 Annual #1, written by Matthew Rosenberg and James Tynan IV, with artwork by Francisco Francavilla. So first and foremost, I'm a huge Francavilla fan, and he had done a couple issues of the regular Joker series. So when I knew that he was doing this is really, really, I love his artwork. I'll buy anything he does. So what this is a past story where Jim Gordon has taken over the Gotham PD, and he's weeded out corruption. And now this story kind of centers on him weeding out corruption within the Gotham City Police Department. So that's the basic structure here. And what I love and what Rosenberg and Tynan wisely do here once again, this is a Jim Gordon story. It's not really a Joker story. It really, he's the villain, but it's really not about him. What I love is, and obviously they knew Francavilla would be drawing this. It's more of a noir tale, and that's what they do when he draws the books for this, and it really works well. It's one of those kind of low key. It's definitely, and once again, that's why I've been a big fan of the Joker series, because it's really a Commissioner Gordon book, and this continues that tradition in this annual. It's a good one and done story that just hits the ground running, and just really, it's really quite good. And once again, Frank Avia's artwork is just absolutely stunning, and he just visually, it's so moody and just rich, and it drips with noir. It's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Definitely check it out, especially for his artwork. But the story is actually really good too. Next up, we have King of Spies #1, written by Mark Miller, with artwork by Matteo Scalera. So this is another Miller verse. I'm sure it's already in. They were already working on it for a Netflix series. So the basic premise here is, think of James Bond. He's aging out. He's retiring, but he's diagnosed with cancer. And he has 6 months to live. So what he decides to do is, with his last 6 months, so he did stuff, say, for the government. He didn't necessarily always kill bad guys. It was always at the service of Her Majesty. So what he's finally realized is that they were thinking that they were creating a better world, and they've discovered that the current world is kind of crap, and that, banks and corporations run it. So he decides with his last 6 months that he's going to fix some of these problems. He's going to take out real bad guys, not necessarily who he's told to. He's just like, you're a bad guy. You like dump toxic waste into the ocean. He just takes them out. And so that's the basic premise here. I have to admit, it's kind of one of the better Miller books that I've read. And then you have Scalara's artwork, which is, the artwork's absolutely gorgeous in here. There's nothing that surprises me in this story, but it's a good, solid story. And it has nice artwork. So it's definitely better than the last few books. The Jupiter book that came out was not very good. So this is actually a step up from that. It was a good read. And if you're looking for a James Bond type spy type story, this is definitely will fit the wheelhouse on that. Next up, we have Nightwing 2021 Annual #1, written by Tom Taylor, with pencils by Kane Tormey and Daniel HDR, and then inks by Kane Tormey, Raul Fernandez, and Daniel HDR. So what this is, it's a one and done story with Nightwing and the Red Hood, Jason Todd. And so it ends up that somebody is impersonating Red Hood, because he doesn't use guns anymore. He used to, be like, pew, 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 I'll kill the bad guys, take them out. So when they see it, when Nightwing sees it, when Dick sees him on the news, he's like, well, that can't be him, because he's not using guns anymore. So that's the basic premise here. It's a decent story. I wasn't particularly overwhelmed, and I wouldn't say it's quite as good as the regular Nightwing book has been with him and Bruno Redondo, but it was a decent story. I think it was just one of those, I don't know that it necessarily need to be as long as it was. It did seem a tad drawn out, but it was decent. The artwork by Tormey and Daniel HDR, it's nice artwork, but overall I think it was okay. It didn't really knock my socks off or anything, but it was a decent read. Next up, we have Animal Castle #1, written by Xavier Dorson, with artwork by Felix Delep. Now, this is a sequel to Animal Farm. So if you've either read the book or seen the animated feature from the 50s, then you know the basic story. So, but what this is we've gone through where the pigs ran the farm and everything. So now the animals are in like a castle. And so what it is the pigs aren't running it. It's actually a rooster that is in charge. And it's the same sort of thing where it's a dictatorship, and he's got a pack of dogs that is his guards. And so what the basic story is, there's a female cat who has lost her mate, her husband, and so now she has to do the work for him, to so she can earn buttons to buy food and stuff. So the first issue has like a mini revolt, and so it's very much in the vein of Animal Farm. And I really have to say that Dorison does a nice job of continuing that story. It's very similar, but it does. I think it's because he's doing it as a comic. There's a lot more depth here than you would normally see in just like say the animated feature comparatively. And really, the big win for this is Delop's artwork is absolutely stunning. This book is gorgeous. Now, it's obviously European because it was obviously a bigger size, so it's a little shrunk down on the page to fit comic book size, which is actually a little disappointing. So I'm kind of hoping that when they do a trade of it, when they collect that they actually do it in bigger size, because this art, it really needs to be in its original size. It's a gorgeous book. It's absolutely stunning. And I really, really recommend it. It's really good. Now, I will forewarn people, there's definitely, I don't want to say animal cruelty, but they kill some of the animals because, oh, you've broken the law or whatever. So that could be a trigger for some people. So be cautious of that. But other than that, it's a really, really wonderful. It's really, really brilliant. Next up, we have Wonder Woman 2021 Annual #1, written by Michael W. Conrad and Becky Cloonan, with artwork by Andy McDonald. So this is another one that kind of is leading up to the trial of the Amazons. And so what it is Diana and Ed are trying to get together because, well, she was dead, so now she's back and they want to, like, catch up on things. Like, oh, how was death? I don't know. It wasn't so great. So what this is there's a mysterious character who says that him and his people lived on the island of Theraschema and were kicked off by the gods. So that's what he is there to do, and he's there to talk to Diane about it, and then they end up fighting and everything, and he's like, oh, this is not over. So that's the basic story here. It was a decent story. I think it's one of those, it kind of suffered a little bit like Nightwing. I don't know that it necessarily needed to be as long as it was. It seemed a tad drawn out. McDonald's artwork was good, but there was a little rough patches. It seemed like there was a little bit of stiffness here and there. I don't think it was fatal. And I don't think it looks bad. I think it was just there's sometimes where it was a little stiff, and it was really when there was just dialogue scenes. Overall, it was decent. I've been reading the regular Wonder Woman book, and I think this was good. I just don't know that it's if you haven't been reading Wonder Woman, I don't know that this is going to really impress you. But overall, it was decent. It wasn't bad. It was kind of okay in the end. Next up, we have Chicken Devil #2, written by Brian Buccello, with artwork by Hayden Sherman. So what it is the main guy and his partner run this chicken restaurant. His partner decided to get involved selling drugs with the mob. That went south. So the mob kills the main guy's family, and so now we're dealing with the ramifications of he knows that the mob's after him. He goes and meets his partner, and then it goes south from there. It's been going south since day one. And it's an interesting story. It's been a while since Buccello has been done a comic, and he's actually he stepped right back into it. He's doing a really nice job, and then Sherman's artwork's really, really nice here, and I love how he does panels. He's able to mutate the layouts and everything, and he does it to really complement the story that Buccello's telling. It's an interesting story. I think it has some nice twists and turns and stuff, and in the second issue built nicely on the first one. So it's definitely I like the second issue, and am intrigued to see where they take it from here. I think it's pretty interesting. Next up, we have Human Target #2. Written by Tom King and Greg Smallwood. Now, to say that I loved the first issue was an understatement. And if you thought the first issue was amazing, this second issue is stunning. It's absolutely stunning. So what it is, the premise is that somebody, Christopher Chance, played Lex Luthor, and somebody basically was trying to poison Lex Luthor, and they ended up poisoning Christopher Chance. He's got 12 days to live. He finds out that one of the ingredients in the poison is from outer space, and the only people that could have gotten it was one or more of the members of the Justice League International. That goes back to the Giffen, DeMatteis, Maguire era. So this issue is Ice goes to see him, and we're not quite sure. We think that she's sent there on purpose to find out what's going on, but and she has a reason that she could have killed. I think what it's going to come down to is everybody's going to have a reason to kill Lex Luthor. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't want to kill Lex Luthor? Everybody wants to kill Lex Luthor. He's kind of an ass. But I think what's interesting is how Ice kind of handles everything, to where I don't know if we're not quite sure if she's been sent there or if she's there on her own to talk to him. I mean, it does seem like she's been sent there for a reason. So, but that reason we don't know. But I think it's really just it's really intriguing. The story was just really, really wonderful. And then Smallwood's artwork is just stunning here. His use of the line work and the color, this just oozes with like noir and just it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. This is like one of the best looking comics I've seen in a long time. Smallwood I've seen his art. He's done really nice artwork, but boy, this is amazing. This book, like I said, the first issue was great, and this issue honestly just blew me away. And we still got a long way to go with this story. So you really need to be buying this book. This is a must buy, a must read. Just absolutely stunning. This is what comics can be, or I should say, this is what superhero comics can be. It's absolutely stunning. King and Smallwood are just knocking out of the park on this. You really need to be buying this book. Next up, we have The Me You Love in the Dark, number 5, written by Scotty Young with artwork by George Corona. So this is the last issue in this miniseries, and it wraps up really nicely. So we kind of, I mean, we know that there's been this entity that has been inspiring her, but now the entity, she's really discovered that it's basically an evil force. So now she's somewhat trapped in the house with it, and things have gone south, so she has to attempt to get out. So I don't want to give away any more because obviously this is the ending, but I will say this has been a really surprisingly amazing miniseries. And what I like about it, one, it had a strong story throughout. Each issue was so well paced. There was a lot of times where there actually wasn't any dialogue, and that I have to give it to both Young and Corona, because there is story there that Young felt that, and he was absolutely right, that there doesn't need to be any dialogue, where Corona actually draws the story. And like I said, the story has been amazing, and Corona's artwork is just stunning in this book. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it's just one of those stories that has a good, strong beginning, middle, and end. And it ended really wonderfully. It's nice to have a somewhat one and done story where it doesn't need a sequel. It doesn't need more. It was perfect for 5 issues, and they really just knocked it out of the park. And really, if you missed it, I know the trade's not coming out till next year, but see if your local comic shop has this book. It's really well worth checking out. Excuse me. Next up, we have Wonder Girl number 5, written by Joelle Jones with artwork by Adriana Mello. So last issue, Yara Flora, she was invited by the gods. Oh, we want you to be a god. But we find out that really they don't want her to be a regular god, kind of like a servant god. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I really don't want to do that. So they get pissed. She's like, okay, fine. So she fights her way out of there. And then, of course, she's kind of screwed. And then, amazingly, she calls Jerry Pegasus and Jerry comes. Now we know that her and Jerry have this really hate-love relationship, but it's really, we love Jerry. We all love Jerry, and we love that kind of Jerry's an ass. And so he comes and saves her. So now there's the side story with Wonder Girl that all this has been tying together. That now she's with a tribe that is planning on marching on Theraschema. So we have the gods are going after Yara. Wonder Girl is caught up in this possible revolt on Themyscira. So this is all coming together in this issue, and I really have to give Jones that she's planned this first story arc out so well, and it's really nice. Now I love her artwork, but I really have to say that Mello has really stepped up to the plate and done a great job of visually doing a great job of continuing the style and the look of the book. Now, she's not mimicking Joelle Jones, but it has a similar feel, which is actually really smart because you want to keep it in that same wheelhouse somewhat visually. But it's definitely not it's not Jones, but Mello does a really nice job, and it's a really good looking book. And I continue each issue. I really have to give it to Jones. This has been a really big surprise book, and it's wonderful. And then Mello is just bringing up the artwork, and it just continues to really bring it every issue. And I'm excited to see where they're going to take the story from here. It's really good stuff. And finally, we have Firepower number 18, written by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee. Once again, I will review this book every month until you buy it. You just need to be buying this book. This book is so damn good. So this issue leaves us on a cliffhanger, and they're taking a 4-month break. It's not going to come back till April, so sad for all of us who have been reading it. So we now know. So what it is, his family has been brought to the temple. The snakes have taken over all the people at the temple. It's gone south, and so we finally learned that we weren't sure if there was a dragon. Yeah, there's a dragon, and it's not looking good. It looks really bad from here. There's a it's not looking good for the family or anybody else, and it looks like the snake villains might I don't think they're gonna win, but it's not looking good for the good guys. Once again, the story's really good. Kirkman continues to surprise me, and then really one of the big wins for this book is Chris Samnee's artwork. It's really gorgeous, and he draws a really amazing dragon. I mean, he really just continues to just impress me every single issue with how he can draw all this amazing story. And it's just, you really need to be buying this book. There are trades out. I'm sure there'll be another trade before the next issue comes out in April. Just really, you need to be buying this book, and I'll just continue to review it until you do. It's really that simple. So that's going to do it this week. A smaller week, but still some really solid books out this week. As always, public service announcement: I buy all my books at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan runs a great store. Annie and Eduardo are great. They have great customer service. They have a great pull service. They offer 30% discount on trades and graphic novels. They offer 20% off of manga. Actually, I have a nice manga selection. That Annie curates the manga. She's really good. She knows what to get, and they can also order stuff for you. If it's something that's available from the distributor, they'll order it for you. And if you live in more of the LA area, there's Pulp Fiction Culver City. Same name, separate store. That one's run by Chris and her team. Once again, they offer this discounts. They offer the pull service. They really have a great store. Much larger selection. It's a much bigger store, but both stores are really good. They'll take care of you. And if you don't live in the LA area, support your local comic shop. It's really important, especially now with the holidays. Comic books make great Christmas gifts. There's lots of trades and graphic novels. There's something for everyone, for sure. And especially for younger readers and stuff, there's a ton of stuff out there in getting kids to read anything. It's always sometimes tough to get kids to read. You give them comics, they'll just eat them up. And so definitely support your local comic shop. Please be safe out there. Please get vaccinated. If you've been vaccinated, please get your booster. Mask up, social distance. Please be safe. We're coming into wintertime, and we have a new variant. It may not look good. It's not looking good. So please be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. And we end it as we always do. Please be kind to each other. Kindness is free. Kindness to other people is wonderful. It'll make you feel good. It makes another person feel good. Being kind is simple. It's just it really, we need to be much kinder and to each other, because kindness goes a long way, and times are tough. So please be kind. That's going to do it this week. Please like, subscribe, share our YouTube videos, and subscribe. And then as soon as you know when it drops, it's in your folder, and said, hey, you can watch me babble on about the comics every week. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Please be kind and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.